Let's talk about the real reason why the Baltimore Ravens aren't making it to the Super Bowl year after year, and we keep seeing the Chiefs do it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell if you want to get notified every single time I put a brand new video. We're on the road to 5,000 subscribers. The goal is to hit it before the new season starts. We're almost at 4,600. So, if you want to support the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Mock Draft Monday came out yesterday. Also talked about Todd Monken extension as well. But in this video today, I'm giving my personal opinion on the real issue behind the Baltimore Ravens postseason struggles recently. Okay. And to start off, I want to hear what you guys think, but I also want you guys to know that this is not, this is definitive, like 100% the Ravens would be playing in the Super Bowl if they did this one thing. But what I'm saying is it would be a lot easier for them to potentially make the Super Bowl if they didn't do the same thing year after year. What is that thing? FAFO. Mess around, find out. Not using the other word. But basically, in the regular season, the Baltimore Ravens have way too many games where they look like they don't know what they're doing. They're completely unprepared. They go out and lose horrific games against teams that are drafting top 5 in the NFL draft. If you're a contending team, you should not be having losses to teams like the Las Vegas Raiders, teams like the Cleveland Browns. And I'll give a pass to division rivals, right? If you lose to Cleveland and that's your one bad loss on the year, okay, that's a division rival. They play you twice a year. Okay, that's fine. But when you have multiple games a year, and this year we had 3 where the Ravens went out there and lost to teams they're dramatically better than. And all of a sudden, when you're looking at the final standings, you go, man, the Ravens lost 3 games that they shouldn't have lost. Imagine if they only lost one of those games. Oh, now they're the 2 seed. Now they're playing at home rather than playing in Buffalo. Ooh, now they're not the 1 seed. They could have been the 1 seed if they're able to win those close games. Not necessarily this year, but in years past, right? The Ravens last year were the number 1 seed, and they should have gone to the Super Bowl, but instead they had, some errors in the AFC Championship game. And again, I'm not saying this is a foolproof plan, but what I'm saying is the reason why myself and Joshua and so many of you get so upset when we're doing these post-game streams after every single game. When the Ravens have a bad game and they lose to a team like Cleveland, a team like the Raiders, right? We get up there and we're pissed and we're yelling at Harbaugh and we're yelling at, whoever it may be. And people are like, you may think about it and go, it's just a regular season game. And it's like, yes, it is a regular season game. The loss in the grand scheme of things, is not doing that much. But at the same time, when it gets to December, January, and the seedings in the NFL playoffs is being selected, and everybody is getting into those final standings, those games do matter, right? Because this isn't a team. The Baltimore Ravens are not a team that is trying to just make the playoffs, right? If they're a team like that, right? And I don't want to throw shade at a lot of teams, but like a team like the Denver Broncos this year, who not necessarily were contenders, but it was a big step for them as an organization to finally get back into the playoffs, right? Just making the playoffs mattered, right? They didn't care that they were a wild card team. That doesn't matter. But when you're a team with a superstar quarterback, whether it's the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, that's kind of it. The Chargers, I guess, if you want to throw Justin Herbert in that conversation, it's not about just making it to the playoffs. Because, yes, you can win as a wild card team. The Ravens have done it twice. But overall, when you look at these dynasties, the great teams, right? Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, what happens every single postseason? Well, they're not playing the first week, and they end up having home field advantage, or at least having one playoff game at home. And it's a lot harder to go in and beat these teams, right? Especially when the Ravens' biggest competition right now in the AFC is Kansas City and Buffalo. 2 teams with very different weather than Baltimore. And again, this isn't saying, I'm not trying to be one of those Bills fans that's like, the Ravens can't play in the cold. But the Ravens don't play very many snow games. And having to go play the Bills or Kansas City where there's potential for a snow game or potential for a 5-degree weather game, That doesn't help your team, right? These are two teams with very passionate fan bases. You want to utilize your passionate fan base. The Ravens are one of the best fan bases in the NFL. So many people talk about it. Ravens fans, Ravens players. Pat McAfee has really started to talk about that a lot on his show. The Ravens need to be playing at home in the playoffs. That's their biggest advantage, right? Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, they are momentum shifters. They are game changers. And when you're playing against these superstar quarterbacks, being able to have the crowd on your side is a massive, massive advantage. Patrick Mahomes has only ever won 2 road playoff games in his entire career. Is that not wild? He beat the Ravens and he beat the Bills last year. Those are the only times. That's something that we need to take notice of, right? The Ravens are playing in a ton of road playoff games. They've lost in Buffalo twice now. They just if they had beaten Buffalo, they would have been playing in Kansas City. This is a team that the Ravens need to stop messing around in the regular season. And I think that comes down to coaching for me. When I'm looking at John Harbaugh and when I'm looking at this Ravens team, there are too many weeks where the entire team, from the coaching staff to every player, look entirely unprepared. They're making too many, situational mistakes, whether it's dropped passes, whether it's Ronnie Stanley doesn't know where to line up on the offensive line in week 1. Again, against a good team like the Chiefs, but that's still an unexcusable mistake. You have these errors way too consistently. Again, if it happens once in a year, it's fine. You came unprepared. You looked past your opponent. You played another one. But it happens to the Ravens 3, maybe 4 times in a year. They lost to the Colts 2 years ago in another horrible game. They lost to Gardner Minshew back-to-back seasons. That can't happen. Okay, for a team that's supposed to be a contender, they mess around in the regular season. They lose too many games to bad teams. And that's one of the biggest reasons I have with Harbaugh is it feels like they're unprepared too often. And I have concerns about them winning 4 consecutive playoff games. Because I think, again, I say it all the time, the Ravens at their best are the best team in the NFL. But they play at their worst more than any other team I've ever seen. Right? The Chiefs are a pretty good team. I'm not going to take it away from them. They're a dynasty. But the reason they're a dynasty isn't because when they play at their best, they're by far better than everyone else, which you could argue they are. But the reason they're the dynasty is they don't make those big mistakes. They come prepared every single time in the playoffs and they lock in. And they don't have huge mistakes in the regular season, right? They may lose a game or 2 in the regular season, but it's not because you look at the Chiefs and you're like, man, they weren't prepared for that game. It was their opponent played the game of their lives, and the Chiefs barely came up short. When the Ravens lose in the regular season, you're like, dude, what did we just watch? We just watched. We had 5 pass interference penalties and 3 dropped touchdowns and 2 dropped picks. And we forgot to use, Derrick Henry or whoever it may be. And you're like, dude, coaching, players, everybody was unprepared. You can't have that if you're a Super Bowl winning team. And maybe you can win 1 Super Bowl like that. But the Ravens fans, we don't want 1 Super Bowl from Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson doesn't want just 1. Would he take just 1? Yes, because everybody would take just 1. But the goal is to win multiple. And you don't win multiple Super Bowls messing around every year in the regular season, not getting home field advantage in the playoffs, because that's what the Chiefs are doing. And that's why they keep going to the Super Bowl and Ravens fans are sitting at home, because the Ravens are too inconsistent. They're too inconsistent in the regular season. They're too inconsistent in the postseason. That's one of my biggest concerns with Harbaugh. That's why I don't want Harbaugh here. You guys know that. I'm not trying to make this an anti-Harbaugh video, more just my take on the Ravens are messing around too much in the regular season because they have the talent. Every year in the NFL, like the last 5 years, you could argue the Ravens are the most talented team in the NFL. But they lose too many games that they shouldn't lose, and they get to the playoffs, and they may play 1 great playoff game, or sometimes even just 1 great playoff half. Last year, they played 1 great playoff half, the second half against the Houston Texans. Other than that, it was like, dude, this is pretty sloppy. This year, they played a good half against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You could argue a good second half, but it's still riddled with mistakes against the Buffalo Bills. This is a team that is messing around too often. You can't do that if you're winning Super Bowls. That's my biggest issue with the Ravens. Let me know if you guys agree. Thank you all so much for watching. It's a bit of a different video, not news related. Just want to get an opinion out there. Make sure to subscribe for more Ravens content. Check out the mock draft that I posted yesterday, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.